Well, I guess we should just get started. I don't know if we have a moderator for the room. And I'm perfectly willing to introduce myself. My name is Randy Bartley. I'm the CEO of BAIR. This is the presentation on the updated Quad Y regulations. As I was saying a few minutes ago, I am the barrier between you and happy hour. Hey, Jeff. So we can make this painless and quick if we need to and want to. Really, there's not a lot of meat to this regulation change. There are some significant impacts, however, in just meeting the limits and detection limits for this change with the Quad Y regulation. So we'll get into it. Again, my name is Randy Bartley. Disclaimer: hey, use this. Take this presentation, but get it before your legal team before you apply any of what you hear here. I've had 25 years in the industry. I'm a member of the Source Evaluation Society. We are a LELAP accredited testing company, testing firm. I did the first presentation on emission testing at the it was actually the GCA, Gas Compressor Association, not the GMRC conference back in 2016. I have done many presentations for 4C over the last couple of years. We co-presented for TCEQ at the beginning of 2020 and on the ASTM method for FTIR analysis, which is primarily the method that will be used for this Quad Y regulation to sample for formaldehyde. Thank you, Jeff. Joined the ASTM-D 6348 rewrite committee in February of last year and also testified on behalf of the GCA for New Mexico's proposed ozone precursor rule last year. So we'll briefly touch on why the EPA updated the rule. Who does it apply to? What are the sources, the pollutants, and the limits? When do you need to be compliant? Where are the applicable locations? And what's the best way to comply with the method? So the rule was originally promulgated back in 2004. And sorry, my notes here, this is really small, so I'm going to turn my head and look at this. Excuse me. And they applied the rule to 8 different categories. And I've got these listed here, but really for the purposes of this presentation, I really want to focus on the 2 categories that for which the stay of effectiveness was recently removed. You can refer back to this presentation to look at the other 6 categories at your leisure. So why did the EPA amend it? The EPA finalized amendments to the NESHAP rule for stationary combustion turbines. This final action removed the stay of effectiveness for the standards for new lean premix and diffusion flame gas-fired turbines, again promulgated back in 2004. These 2 turbine types were originally stayed because the EPA had received a petition from industry to delist these turbines from the regulation under 40 CFR Part 63. The US EPA never delisted these gas turbines due to a court decision in 2007 that said you don't have the authority to delist any subcategory, turbine subcategory. In 2019, the EPA did a risk and technology review. And when they did this, they decided to keep, US EPA kept the stay in place due to the industry's petition, once again, to delist that source category altogether. However, during the risk and technology review, EPA realized that the source category had a greater than 1 in 1 million chance for cancer risk. So because of that, they've decided to go ahead and remove the stay for formaldehyde emissions on these turbines. So who does the rule apply to with these 2 subcategories of turbines being delisted? This is going to affect the electric power generation, gas transmission or distribution, pipeline transportation of natural gas, and crude petroleum and natural gas extraction. This list, per the rule, is not intended to be exhaustive, so you want to make sure that you want to do a thorough analysis of your facility to ensure that your category does or does not meet the criteria of applicability. So again, what sources come in from the removal of this stay? You've got new lean premix gas-fired turbines and new diffusion flame gas turbines, new diffusion flame oil-fired turbines. And the limits that we've got to meet, 91 ppb parts per billion at 15% O2 for your formaldehyde emissions. When do you have to comply with this? Well, EPA has said, well, the rule is finalized March 9th, last month, March 9th, 2022. So any existing lean premix gas turbines and diffusion gas turbines that are on location since the rule was promulgated in 2004, you have 180 days from about a month ago to become compliant with this rule. And if you start up a new or reconstructed stationary combustion turbine, lean premix gas-fired, again, or diffusion flame gas-fired stationary combustion turbine, then you again have 180 days for which to become compliant. Where does the rule apply? NESHAP, major sources for hazardous air pollutants. So one of the things that's come up with this and what feels like a very short timeline to become compliant with this regulation 180 days from a month ago is to do an analysis of whether or not your facility is truly a major source for hazardous air pollutants. And if you can go back and do some calculations or do some measurements to declassify as Title V perhaps, then the rule would not apply to you because Quad Y is only written for major source facilities. So that is one thing that you can do to try to completely go around this regulation if possible. But otherwise, there's been a lot of concerns from industry that one, acquiring the technology to get down to that 91 ppb detection limit, and then the time frame for setting up these tests. You've got a 60-day pre-test notification, putting a test plan together, finding contractors that can do this. But EPA's response to that was, hey, this rule was promulgated in 2004. You've always known that these two turbine subcategories could be, the state of effectiveness could be removed for this at any point. So in theory, you've known about this for 17 years and have had plenty of time to find contractors and get ready for this. One of the issues is that these turbines that are now under applicability of this rule, they've never been sampled, never been looked at before. So operators really don't know what they're dealing with as far as what their emission limits are going to be. And then outside of testing contractors, getting the oxidation catalyst and controls to reduce your formaldehyde on these turbines could also be an issue from industry standpoint. So again, how to comply. You'll have initial and annual compliance testing, again, 60-day pre-test notifications. EPA method, reference method 320 or ASTM D6348 are going to be the primary methods used to analyze the formaldehyde. FTIR would be the instrument for the analysis. You'll have 3 one-hour test runs, which is pretty standard with your NESHAP sampling. And then you'll also have parametric monitoring and record keeping and reporting requirements. So the technology that's available, there's 3 that I'll talk about here. I think these would be the best methods that you could try to get this done. The Max IR, FTIR with Star Boost, if you haven't seen those on display here, or I think AM Cherokee did a whole training session on yesterday showing the new technology that Max has come out with, and some of us were just in a room with Marty Sparts, seeing how they're able to achieve the low detection limits with their new technology as opposed to traditional FTIR analyzers. You've got single-digit ppb detection of your HAP, such as formaldehyde. It's in real time. They use a TOM or a thermal oxidizer module, which can be added to your Max IR with Star Boost technology, which just narrows the infrared band or spectral bands where you can really hone in on certain compounds of interest. They can use interchangeable detectors to look at formaldehyde at very low detection limits, or you put in a different detector for your if you wanted to look at ethylene oxide, for example. The TOM removes your target analyte from the sample matrix without reducing any of your atmospheric, atmospheric interferences, such as water, methane, CO2. The interference spectrum can be added to the regression in real time to improve your formaldehyde data quality. Again, technical expertise at this level is not my forte. Talk to Marty, talk to the guys at Max. Max is now owned by Thermo Fisher Scientific, but again, if you need their contact info, I'd be happy to supply that to you. A cavity ring down system is another way to do this. You can really get a good formaldehyde reading. It's very sensitive. However, it can be susceptible to temperature, dust, and vibration. And then the old way of doing this with an FTIR analyzer would be to have a very long path length gas cell. Cell volume is going to make it challenging for time-sensitive measurements and spike recovery. So as you go through your calibration procedures, these long meter path cells or path length gas cells can be difficult to get your sample and your reading down at the detection limits that you want, just because of how long the path length is. I think what did Marty say? There's was in the Max. Will, do you remember? I think it was 10 meter. And I think the MKS is a 5.1 meter, but again, is that right, Paul? 5.1, 5. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So, the US EPA, just for a couple of other points here. US EPA is still considering petitions to delist the source category, but this process could take years. Again, they've been denied this on the basis that they didn't have the delegated authority to delist any subcategory of these turbines. Again, meeting the 180-day deadline for compliance is going to be a challenge. Again, especially with some of this new technology only just being commercially available. To place an order on one of these analyzers, if you haven't done it already, you've got I think a 10 to 14 week delivery time on those analyzers. So again, we're already 1 month into the 180 days. So the clock is definitely ticking on this. Facility owners and operators should consider working with the delegated authorities and agencies for compliance schedules. You might get some leniency there to say, look, we've got a test plan in place. We're just waiting on the equipment to be delivered from the testing companies to get this. And again, I would say reach out and try to find whatever leniency you can. And I know a lot of you guys are in here from testing companies. So if you're working with your clients on this, recommend that they do that, work with the delegated agency. And then emission testing firms that are equipped with the technology to get down to that detection level. Very, very limited at this point. Short, again, you get into the rule, there's not a lot of meat on that bone, but it is impactful. There's about 250 turbines that are out there right now that are going to come into effect with this rule. And of course, any new installs after this, but about 250 in the United States right now. Yes, sir. There, well, so on the PIM, yeah, I don't know about the PIMs, if you'd have to submit that with the test plan for the 3 1-hour runs. But that may be, I haven't seen that in the rule, but I was asked not very long ago to digest this and present this. So, could have been something that I looked over, but something that I can certainly look up and get back to you on. Any other questions?
The 250 that are deadline.
Yep. Yep. So I pulled this, the timeline for compliance. This reads a little bit funny, but it's directly from the method. So if you look at Section 3, if you start up a new or existing reconstructed stationary combustion turbine, which is lean premix or diffusion flame gas fired turbine as defined by this subpart on or before March 9th, 2022, you must comply with the emission limitations and operating limitations in this subpart no later than March 9th of 2022. And they're saying that that goes back to the promulgated rule in 2004. So yes, that's why, as of March 9th, that the clock started ticking.
Had any clients come to you about oxidation?
We have had clients come to us, but I don't think they know what they've got on these turbines yet. They just haven't messed with them. Have you had some clients come to you, Jeff?
Yeah. That's a whole other like ball of wax. Buying the operation.
Mm-hmm.
Very involved. That
No, and again, it's very vague. Even the update is very vague as far as what's being required. So again, I am intending to dig into this, much further, and wish I had that information readily available at right now. But I'll get a list of everyone that's in here signed up, and as I come up with information, be happy to send that out and discuss it, see what you guys are doing, see what your clients are trying to figure out as far as meeting these compliance requirements. Yeah, and the EPA's view on that was, well, no, it didn't come up very quickly. You've known technically since 2004, but when you just remove a stay, and there's this, the removal of this stay has been in discussion for, I mean, we caught wind of it 6 months ago, maybe, but didn't think much of it. I didn't have any clients reaching out to us. Again, this would be on large transmission lines. Um, we have some clients that have this, but again, the first time that I was approached by any client was about a week and a half ago. Well, to Jeff's point, I don't know that any of them, have oxidation catalyst on them at this time. So, getting those manufactured for these turbines, sizing them correctly, it's going to be a process. Again, our recommendation at this point is simply to contact your delegated authority and say, this is what we're trying to do to comply with this deadline. And I think any level of proactivity is going to be received better than just not having any discussion with them at all.
natural gas company and a lot of our
Right.
they will offer me
Okay, without a catalyst. Wow. Well, they would have been, or should have been well ahead of this. In you to your point. With or without the catalyst? Oh, okay, yeah.
Some of these speakers don't work. This most of them without that, and so far even for get more. Trying to support from the power side. You know, kind of so far.
Paul, would you mind throwing a number out there as far as what you guys are seeing on the formaldehyde? Okay,
Yeah. Back so much so that we're probably not going to be doing testing as we hope we might have.
okay.
You know, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that's what you are using the, yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Sell side, I'm not sure what the feel for this, but I do know it's markets.
Yeah, because Max was incorporating Star Boost with the 2030s for a little while as well before they developed their own Max IR. So there's the MKS Multi-Gas 2030, which has been probably the predominant FTIR used in the natural gas industry for the last decade and a half. When the Quad Z Mac rule came out, we were all in a rush to go get FTIR analyzers so that we could measure the formaldehyde. So I think most of us in the room have used those predominantly, but yeah, it's really the Star Boost technology that you need to start drilling down at that low detection limit. Because the formaldehyde rule had a sampling at 350 ppb. Now we got to get down to 91.
described as
Okay.
there continues to require as a requirement for demonstrate.
But how frequently are, okay. So it is, so is that,
It's like a certain
okay,
station catalyst, they've got to monitor well while we're doing the testing, and then that kind of, that's their.
temperature and pressure across the catalyst.
Without the oxidation catalyst, what parameters, that is a great point. That solar manufacturer.
Yeah.
They should know. Some units. Settings. Beyond settings. That's the ones with the oxidation valves. To begin with, so.
So is that, that requirement would be to cover any part 75? Like RADAs, is that essentially what you're doing?
CO.
Yeah.
What a lot of. Side. Yeah.
Well, again, we'll continue to digest this, and I've got most of you guys in the room, I've already got your contact info, so we'll be pinging each other, I guess, seeing what the best approach is.